There is a plan and a debate now about MPs who are hosting media shows to be stripped of their second jobs. It's become a focal point of political discussion, particularly as Labour now considers tightening the rules on outside paid engagements. And GB News is, of course, at the centre of this controversy, with hosts like Nigel Farage and hosts with less competence like Lee Anderson accusing Labour of attempting to silence them or silence conservative voices by potentially banning MPs from hosting these shows. The issue stems from concerns over conflict of interest, with critics arguing that allowing MPs to host current affairs programmes blurs the line between their legislative duties and their media roles. Labour's proposal, led by the newly formed Modernisation Committee, chaired by Lucy Powell, aims to restore trust in Parliament by examining whether such paid media appearances serve the public or create ethical dilemmas. Of course, in the past, if you go all the way back, the job of an MP, particularly a backbench MP, was to hold the government of the day to account, even from their own party. And they were expected to have other jobs, and the Parliament would meet in the evenings so they could turn up from their job in wherever it was, and in business, and go off and represent their constituents in the House. Now this has all changed, and politics has become much more, quote, professional. They expect to be paid, and they expect to be engaged in a full-time job. And Lee Anderson, who of course doesn't like this full-time job, he's not even sure, he's A, not sure what job he's doing at any one particular time, B, probably not sure which party he belongs to at any particular time, and as for Nigel Farage, well, he can just create another party when he gets tired of the one he's already in. And Lee Anderson has strongly condemned this move, labelling it as sinister, a sinister attempt to suppress conservative viewpoints, or to suppress him. Well, that would be a joy, wouldn't it? Particularly on GB News, which has gained popularity among right-wing leaning audiences. He and Farage, both prominent figures on the network, see the potential crackdown as an attack on free speech and the plurality of opinions in British media. They ought to see it as an opportunity for real journalists and real members of the public to get on air and present their views. It would free up the channel so that the channel was no longer the mouthpiece of the disgruntled far right, and it would have a range of views, like Benjamin Butterworth, great character. Tom Harwood, great character. Wonderful presenters. One slightly on the right, one slightly on the left, but they're not in Parliament. They're actually doing a real job. We should have more of these people and less of the people moonlighting. Lee Anderson, I'm a moonlighter. Can I wear my T-shirt? And we don't want to see him in his T-shirt. I mean, sometimes he's moonlighting, sometimes he looks as if he's still in the bathroom. It's distressing. It's not what I want to see when I switch on my telly. And he and Farage, Lee Anderson and Farage, and before that, Nadine Dorries and Jacob Rees-Mogg. I was going to say Jacob Rees-Mogg, but that's a thing still in preparation, which I do hope will eventually emerge and get onto the shelf underneath these videos. The Jacob Rees-Mogg, you can buy it for however much it's eventually going to cost when YouTube finally releases the gates to the mug collection. Lee Anderson, Farage, Rees-Mogg, Nadine Dorries, prominent figures on the network that might see the potential crackdown as an attack on free speech and the plurality of opinions in British media. Well, it's not true. There's plenty of free speech and there's plenty of plurality. It's just that if you're elected to Parliament, that's the place you speak. And this proposal, of course, has implications for GB News. It means they're not going to have anybody available to speak. It could impact MPs from various parties, including Labour figures like Jess Phillips and Emily Thornberry, who've also appeared as presenters on media platforms like LBC. Lammy was there. And the Modernisation Committee will need to balance the desire for higher standards in parliamentary conduct with the risk of alienating MPs and media outlets who argue that they provide valuable perspectives through their media roles. But the debate reflects broader questions about the role of an MP and the public sphere, with some seeing their media presence as a positive force for political engagement. Let's go on. Have I got news for you? Or I'm a celebrity. Get me out of here. But going on as a guest in Have I Got News for You is different to bearing your bottom on I'm a celebrity, and different to having your own show on GBNews. And bearing your bottom or having your own show when we come to Nigel Farage, I suppose it's a question of looking at one end or the other end of Nigel Farage. But I think Farage is a very good newscaster. He's very good with the auto cue. He's very affable on screen. But he's now elected to Parliament, and it's a different job. And I also think, there should be some sort of rule that contextualizes the tweets which are put out. He's now put out a tweet about him talking in the in Prime Minister's Questions about the two-tier policing, but he seems to he doesn't care much for the answer, and he's very carefully obliterated the jeering. We need to have these questions put out in context, because you might, for example, Farage, I'm sure, could find a time to ask a question in an almost empty chamber where there's not going to be any jeering or booing, and give the impression that he's that he's standing in front of the entire world. No, he's not. He's standing in an empty Parliament, an empty House of Commons, pontificating to the benches. And, it's all very lovely because everybody needs to admire the work of Pugin. But I don't think the aesthetics is the thing which is going to be commanding his interest or the thing that appeals to his base. It should. And, but anyway, the debate. It's about encouraging trust and accountability. And in the coming months, as the issue unfolds, it will be interesting to watch how both Parliament and media outlets respond, especially GBNews, which is so vocal about its opposition to any new restrictions. And I'm sure Ofcom will finally start doing its job. Finally.